me make sure on attendees. Okay.
We don't have Dave
all I
Lee
know
yet.
is- What?
Dave's not on yet.
He
We're a
has
couple-
not jumped in yet.
We're getting close, so.
And Christine, I will make you co-host also so you can see attendees. Does it help for you guys to see the agenda?
I have paper.
I was just looking at my email for it. So, I mean, if you can share it, that's easy.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks.
I'm just trying to figure out how to see everything with this, like with the attendees and stuff, with it, with your screen shared.
So do you see, actually, let me do, or maybe, okay, do you have the participant box pulled up? Okay, so
before you shared your screen, and now I'm trying to find it.
Okay, so go to the top of the screen with your mouse.
Okay.
Did the bar come up across the top?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'm gonna stop share for a second.
Nope, I'm okay. I found
You
it.
are? Okay. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm good.
Now Dave has not joined.
That's okay. We probably can get started when he jumps on. He can.
No, he just. Let me.
Oh, did you just get his text, Debbie?
Yeah, and trying to. Okay. Copy invite.
Do we still have a consul liaison?
We do. It's John Stone. He probably is going to miss tonight. He had some oral surgery done today.
I have to send Dave. It's not letting me send. Let me do this.
I'll forward him the meeting invite you sent earlier this evening.
Do you have, okay, perfect. Because I don't have that invite in my email.
Okay.
Well, should we go ahead and get started in the meantime?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, then
Okay.
he'll jump in.
Okay, cool. So I will call the meeting to order. And our first agenda item is roll call.
Okay. Christina Adams,
Here?
Monica Johnson,
Here.
Kate Truesdell,
Here.
Jim Woodward,
Here?
Stephen Young,
Here.
Gary Manfrey. I know he was just
Present.
perfect. Thanks, Gary. Councilmember Stone is not present. Excused, we have Mark Husbands. He may be joining us later. And Karen Miller. Staff, Christina Underhill
Here.
and Dave Lee.
Here.
Perfect, thank you.
Great. And before we move to approval of minutes, I just wanted to welcome Monica to the commission. Don't feel like you have to say anything. You're welcome to if you want to, but welcome to the group. We think we have the best commission. And when we can actually meet in person, it'll be lovely to actually meet you in person as well. Okay, so we need an approval of the July 9th minutes. If everybody had a chance to take a look at those, if I could get a motion, that would be great.
I will move the minutes of July 9th
Do we have a
as
second?
written.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Perfect. Let me just mix this up. Okay, so it looks like our next order of business is public comment, and I don't believe we have any scheduled public comment. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, great.
And we do have Paul who would like to speak.
Okie dokie, sorry. I'm trying to just navigate all of these screens, everyone, so just
No,
bear
you're good.
while I'm toggling back and forth between everything. Okay, public comment. So do we go from public comment to unscheduled public comment?
Or just for the teleconference meetings, we're just doing it as public recognition comment.
Oh, okay.
Or,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then let's see, Paul, I'm going to, wait, did you just
I just unmuted him, so he's.
Okay, perfect.
I just unmuted. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, so I just had a I'm just for the benefit of Monica. I am since you're new. I'm the liaison between the Englewood Unleashed Off-Leash Park Use Group and the Parks and Rec Commission. And I just had a couple things. I wanted to get some clarification. Several of us have noticed some new signs I've noticed them at Duncan and Jason Park that have rewritten some of the rules of the park, specifically under the off-leash use. That the hours are now limited to 6 a.m. to 6 to 11 a.m. and 6 to 11 p.m. With no seasonal change in the winter time. And I just wanted to get clarification that these parks will be closed to off-leash use from 9 to 6. During the winter. I also the second thing was I also wanted to give kudos to the group whoever it is who's been setting up the benches at Jason Park this summer. They've done a great job. They look beautiful. I was just at a dedication for one about a week and a half ago, and they've done all of the benches that they've put in this summer look awesome. So thank you guys, whoever that is. So thank you. So, and that's
Great.
it.
Thanks, Paul. I don't know, Christina, if you want to address, or Dave, the hours now, or if you want to talk about it when we get down a little bit farther. I don't have a preference either way.
Yeah, Dave, do you want to address the new park signs that they put together?
Yes. This came about earlier in the year, and I think even last year, with a number of people that visited both the commission and council in regards to the hours being too confusing. This was also something that was brought forth from code enforcement as they went out to contact people who were out during the off-leash hours. And again, a lot of people said, well, I didn't know. So in response to that, one of council's directives were for us to work on those hours and make them or establish them as something that was a little bit more clear than what we've had in the past. So hence what you're seeing out there and in the rest of the off-leash areas are revised hours because of that.
Great, thank you, Dave. Were there any other participants or members of the public who wish to speak during this portion of the meeting?
Christine, can I ask Dave a question regarding
Sure.
those hours?
Yeah.
What are those hours? Would you repeat those hours, Dave?
The hours are for off-leash 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. And that's all year round.
Great. Thank you, Paul, for joining our meeting. So with no other scheduled or unscheduled public comment, we'll move on to new business, which looks like it's the budget update from Christina.
It is. So, Debbie, do you want to keep sharing or do you want me to do it? Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on one second. I'll share my screen. Hold on. Now I gotta, you're right. There's a lot of screens to deal with. Getting there. Hold on. Okay, so I'm actually just going off the agenda because I tried to save you all a little time here. The actual budget presentation to City Council is 150 slides. So I pulled out some important ones just to go over so you have a little overview of the overall city budget and then what our budget is for Parks, Recreation, Library, and Golf. And this slide here is showing the overall city budget. It's the sources by use and funds by specific areas. So you can see that between 2020 and 2021, we actually have a slight decrease in our overall budget. And you can see Parks and Recreation, as far as when we talk about revenues we're going to bring in, we'll go from 2.7 for 2020, which we are not getting, by the way, because of COVID. We're probably only going to be around 1.2 million. We might get lucky and bring in more. It might be less by the end of the year. So Pirates Cove is doing okay. This is the last week it's been open during the weekdays, and now it's going to weekends only. And we were able to bring in an extra $33,000 just this week for Pirates Cove revenue by having it open one additional week longer, because we found that the high schools weren't going to be going back to school as their usual schedule. So we were able to keep some of our guards longer. But really what this slide is showing is the sale and use tax. It remains the majority of our city revenue coming in. There's no significant change in the overall projections except for in Parks and Recreation. We reduced it. And so that's kind of the new normal. It's hard to project revenue due to unforeseen circumstances. In Parks and Rec, it's discretionary funds that people utilize when they're participating in our programs, visiting our parks, going to play golf. So, you know, with the unemployment rate, with COVID, with changes in like family dynamics of kids being at home, that discretionary income changes over time. And so we're doing our best to guess what we may bring in, but like we learned this year, you can't really know for sure how it's going to go. And we could be well into COVID next year if you know, vaccines don't come out. So we may not see any revenue increase, but hope is we will get there. What this is showing is use of funds. So where funds land next year relative to services versus the support organizations in the city. So direct services, so that's Parks and Recreation, our fire and emergency management service contract we have with Denver Police, Public Works. Those are direct services to the community, whereas you get the attorney's office, the court system, human resources and such. Those are non-direct services, but we are decreasing slightly. We go from 70% direct services this current year to only 69% next year. So we have made budget reductions. Parks, Recreation, Libraries have, and Golf have made reductions upwards of $250,000 already in next year's budget. And we're hoping we're not going to have to reduce any further. Council did mention potential furloughs next year. So that's on the table to try to help balance the budget some and not cut programs per se. But again, we're a little early in the budget season, and we go back to council on August 24th with some updates to this budget that we're showing you tonight. So as part of the 2020 budget, we were asked to identify some efficiencies that we were able to have this current fiscal year that will roll into 2021. And so one of the efficiencies in in parks is the park ranger position, which will give a little break to our code enforcement agents out there to focus more on other city issues, and the ranger would focus specifically on park related issues. Golf, they implemented a new payment process improvement system. Because of COVID, people had to pay in advance of play, which actually sped up the check-in process and allowed people to get out on the course faster, and that was pretty well received. We had an adjustment in tee times. We actually lengthened the tee time start, from a normal 7, 8 minutes to, I think we were all the way at 13 right when we reopened. And so we were trying to keep the pace of play going. As COVID has moved through this summer, we've reduced those tee time intervals, and we found we've got less complaints from the golfers overall. As far as maintaining somebody on site when golf was closed to make sure we had safety practices in place. We had a lot of visitors to our course, either people trying to get on just to play a free round of golf, or people visiting and wanting to walk around the course. So while it was closed, we had staff there providing customer service still. The library division, they left a lot of positions that were unfilled. They stayed unfilled, so we had a cost savings there. Also, we didn't fill when somebody went on vacation or were absent. We kept those people out and didn't fill those positions. This is a big one. They canceled upcoming programs. Obviously, we couldn't hold a lot of in-person programming. And so some of the savings from that, we're actually going to be reinvesting into more long-term benefiting programs like our teen program at the library. Teen programs across the board always struggle, and library has a chance to actually develop a teen room in one of their current meeting rooms and change that over so teens will have their own space. They're moving the collection for teens closer to the front desk area to provide some safety, and it seems like some parents have been pretty pleased when they've heard about that, just the safety of where the teens are located. They're not far in a corner where they can't be seen. As far as Pirates Cove, this is a big one. On the recreation side, we knew we were going to be down in revenue, and we kept hearing that time and time again, our shortfalls, and our staff has been doing everything in their power to reduce expenditures so the revenues can offset a little bit easier. Pirates Cove, we ended up using our lifeguard staff, and we hired a few staff to help clean the park versus using custodial or a groundskeeper to do all that work. They were able to clean the park multiple times a day between the opening and closing of each time slots, and it was done really quickly. The kids all made a game out of it, and they had fun while cleaning, which was kind of a surprise to us that they enjoyed it, or at least they said they did. As far as staff plan generating cost savings, they did a good job of reducing staff where they could, like concessions. We didn't staff that up completely this summer. We didn't need to. When you only have 250 people in the park at one time versus 1,000 to 1,600, it's a little easier to manage. So we saved some money on that side. They changed the party format, the birthday party format. It used to be 2 staff that would be part of those parties and entertaining the group, and they're going to more of a just a rental of an area and not staffing it with that, and it is more successful. As far as ERC and Mally are concerned, the way we've interacted with our guests has changed. We had to find different ways to interact with our guests because of COVID and the proximity that we had. We've gone from group swim lessons to more private lessons, which actually increased our revenue. Streamlined staff workload by spreading out senior staff instead of using the part-time staff during the day in the different shifts. There's energy and utility savings going on because of the closures. We didn't obviously use the heaters or the AC as much this summer because of our hours changing. And then virtual programming has been a big one. That's a huge change to the industry of recreation. Virtual programming wasn't maybe something everybody would tap into, but now because we've been stuck at home, at least the initial start of COVID, we had to find ways to connect with our patrons and our members to keep ERC and Mally relevant and keep people active and engaged during this odd time. So those were some efficiencies. There's probably a lot more that staff have done, but those are just some highlights that's been presented to council. Now we'll dig into the budget. So like I said, staff has already run some budget exercises and began reducing our budget before this was even finalized to present tonight. So we've had about a $250,000 that we've reduced from the budget. Although what you see here is our budget actually went up $59,000, and that's due to the request of our park ranger, which all said and done is about $117,000 in a request. So that's where our budget sits for 2021 is 8.3 million, but it includes a new FTE, a new full-time position. And then we move on to just our initiatives. You've seen this slide before, but getting a design done for broken T irrigation to know what our actual costs will be to replace that is going to be a challenge for us in 2021, something we'll accomplish. New marketing strategies to keep the community overall engaged with what we have. We know there's competition out there, and continuing to market what we're doing and being good at marketing that. Sometimes public parks and recreation struggles with the marketing side because it's not necessarily something we need to do. People find us, but it's important to market and stay relevant. Improving the engagement with ages 8 to 14. Library's doing the teen area and more teen programming. Recreation is doing the same, trying to engage teens. And that's the goal for 2021. And then this is the big one, continuing to do remote and virtual offerings and outreach through our programming efforts. We have to continue this. We're still limited on how many people we can bring into our facilities. Not everybody gets to visit when they want to visit. And so offering the virtual programs to keep people engaged is our goal. So again, we're just continuing to involve these programs. I don't anticipate we're going to go back to any normalcy in the near future, at least. And this could definitely roll into 2021 to where we're kind of sitting in the same boat that we're in currently. So we want to keep our programs relevant and attractive and competitive against all the other competition that we have, not only in Inglewood, but in Denver and surrounding areas. So the goal is just to keep people engaged and involved and overall improve their quality of life. So these are 2 new FTE positions. From my understanding, the recreation assistant position will most likely not be approved for 2021. So we'll put that on the back burner for 2022. But the park ranger is listed here. And overall, it's 162,000 actually when you add in the truck and the benefits and the computer uniform, etc. So that position is looking promising. Again, it hasn't been officially approved yet, but we're working through some, I guess, legal issues with that, since Parks Recreation isn't legally allowed to write summons or anything like that, something that Code does. And so if we get this position approved, it's kind of up in the air if this position will actually report to our Parks Division or report to Code. So we're working through that. If it goes to Code, they'll get this in their budget. But that's our new FTE for 2021. And then these are our programs, new programs we're asking for. Actually, the first 2, holiday lighting and flower pots on Broadway, that's an annual ask that we give just to beautify that area. It's a main thoroughfare through Inglewood. The Planet Geo software for parks, It helps identify tree health, which we have the Emerald Ash Borer that's headed our way. This program will help us with that, but it also manages efficiencies and tracking and other things that will help our Parks Division be ahead of the game and proactive versus reactive. This one's a little irrelevant, but the library program's been running the mail division now for over a year, and IT used to have it, so they're just transferring the city postage to our library division, so libraries can pay for the city postage moving forward since they house the mail division in their side. The Museum of Outdoor Art contract, it's something that myself and Mark Mullis, who's over our library manager, we oversee that contract, but City Council pays for that contract. This year it was $48,000 for 2020. 2021 it's reduced to $24,000. In 2022 it actually goes to zero. They're diminishing the amount the city contract is contributing to the MOA. And by they, I mean City Council is reducing that. We did a compensation study over the summer, and we had a handful of positions. We had 4 full-time positions and 3 part-time positions that fell below that mid-range point. So we're just getting those positions up to mid-range to stay competitive in the market for those individuals. Initially, I think it was like around $40,000 identified for Parks, Recreation, and Libraries, but a lot of those that were identified were actually part-time positions, and then and the individuals that were identified weren't even with us any longer. And so when we broke it down, it ended up only being a hit to about just under $13,000 for the overall request to bring our compensation up. And then education, this will go towards certifications. Our Parks Division has quite a few individuals that need to get annual certifications upped, and so the $52,000 will go to that training. We only have 1 rate fee change, and it's going to be at our golf course. There's a 5% fee increase. Shannon presented this back in July, I think it was, to you all. Yeah, I think it was July. It's really a $1 to $2 increase in the round of golf. So for an example, a weekend round of golf is currently $37, and it will go up to $39 in 2021. So we're still pretty relevant in cost. It's pretty low when you look at other courses in the area. But it'll potentially, if we do a good season next year and a lot of participation at the course like we're having this year, we could potentially bring in $85,000 more for the golf course through that $1 to $2 fee increase. And then this is just the golf course fund, so you can see where they're at. They're only increasing $9,000. They had some retirement and staff that have left to have a cost savings of $45,000 for them. So help balance out when you have contractual services, those increase annually. It's guaranteed. Usually it's between 2 and 5% in contractual service increases. So the course isn't going up too much. It's not a balanced budget for them. But they're an enterprise fund. They're not coming out of the general fund, so we have a little wiggle room to work with their budget directly. And then we jump into the capital project requests. These are annual programs. If we don't use this money that's identified here, it rolls over year after year. So like, I don't think for the train maintenance in 2020, we spent $15,000. But so whatever we didn't spend, it gets rolled over. And we have, Recreation Center in Maui, the fitness equipment replacement annually. We may not use it all. Again, it rolls over. Pirates Cove, they did some improvements this summer to add some new elements. And again, this is a nice program to have. It rolls over if you don't use it, so you can save some funds if you know how you have larger projects you want to identify and accomplish in the future years. That's all in the Conservation Trust funds. Move to the Open Space fund. So this is a long list of all of the items that we're looking to update next year. Again, the big one here is grant matching. Dave is going after a grant for Jason Park. We can use some of that fund from grant matching to cover Jason Park renovations. And so that's a nice bit of change to have there. But these, again, are annual programs we have listed to identify anything we want to renovate or upgrade. through the open space capital. The first one listed here in the public improvement fund, the parking lot upgrade did not get approved, so it's not moving forward. The final three are the OffLeash Program. Our staff are already implementing that program now. They're removing ash trees that are just not doing well, that are diseased, not necessarily have emerald ash borer in them, just aren't doing well, and replacing with a different species tree. Golf course, they have an annual golf court cart replacement program that they've implemented. I think it's 12 carts annually that get replaced and brought in, and they really run these carts into the ground before they get replaced. So it's nice to have new carts out there. And then driving range equipment. If you've been by the golf course, I was out there yesterday, and the driving range has been extremely busy, and there was balls all over the place, and they cannot pick them up fast enough. So get a new picker out there to help them speed up their picking up of the golf balls is going to be probably on the top of the list for next year. And that's all I have. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and Dave's on here as well to help answer questions that you may have.
Does anybody on the commission have questions?
I have a couple here. Let me see.
Sure thing, Jim.
Birthday parties at Pirates Cove, did you have any of those this year? I mean, were you able to?
No, not really. We might have had a couple of smaller ones, but yeah, the big birthday parties that they normally would have, we didn't see or didn't even allow them really. So it was smaller scale.
Yeah. Okay. And then the grant matching, which was, you had mentioned Jason Park upgrades. What would be the upgrades to Jason Park?
So Dave, if you want to handle it, this is your program, you're writing it. It's I'm actually excited for Jason Park, what we're going to be doing out there, kind of finalizing some of the pieces of Jason Park to round it out.
This would be preliminary, Jim, but as it stands right now, I think you all realize that we put in a playground, which was about $435,000 a couple of years ago. To add to that, we're looking at putting in a new shelter and a new restroom. We'll look at putting in a post-tension concrete basketball court. And then we're also toying with the idea of a fenced dog park in that area as well.
Okay. If you didn't do a fenced dog park, could you do a single fence going across, for example, from the shelter across all the way down to the parking lot to separate it from the playground area?
Yes, that's always a potential too.
Okay. And then I had on landscaping, the $71,000, is that just a regular, I mean, that's a capital project. Where's all that going? Or coming?
All of those funds are perennial funds, Jim. And one of the last things that we had done after the large storm that we had in 2018, we went out, all of the landscape timbers over there next to Jack Pool Field had washed out. So we took that whole hillside apart, all of the landscaping, the junipers, and we sodded and irrigated that and put in turf. So that was a big part of it. So we do annual projects like that. Even some smaller ones. So there's room for anything that anybody wants to envision out there, but we don't have a dedicated project at this point.
So that's just kind of a budget number for that.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I had.
Great. Thanks, Jim. Does anybody else have any questions? Cool. So we will move on to old business. Task Force Reorg. Christina.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring this in front of the board tonight to get you to potentially approve how I want to proceed with the task force to get a final recommendation in front of council. We didn't get a ton of direction. We got some, but not a lot as far as, the the council didn't necessarily agree with the full task force that we have currently in their recommendations. They had a lot of questions and wanted us to kind of go back to the drawing board. So my proposal is to reorg the task force, use the current members of the task force if they're willing, and expand it to bring in Pirate Youth Sports, one member from them, to identify some issues that they've had to help us formulate the final recommendation. Inglewood Unleashed, have a couple members participate on this task force from that group. And then I have 2 residents so far identified that have not actually opposed the off-leash program, but they're the opposition side. So, but they're willing to, you know, work with everybody and compromise and get what's the best recommendation forward. And then, so that's going to be about, let's see, 2, 4, about 8 potential new members. And then we'll have, as far as advisory is concerned, Dave Lee, Dave Lewis from Code Enforcement, and myself. And we have a program that we're working on getting a mediator to come in and help kind of be the middle ground, the neutral ground for the task force to help us come up with that solution. The thought would be this could be between 2 and 3, potentially 4 meetings, but I'd like to bring them together probably near the end of September, early October, to start this new task force to come up with solutions to the off-leash program that we can move forward with in 2021. And the thought would be is to get the new program in place in 2021 when the park ranger's on board and can enforce it. Right now, I think we'd be in the same situation, and with COVID, there really isn't much of an appetite to make any major changes just yet. And so like Dave said, you know, we're playing with the idea of adding a fence at Jason Park, so there's an actual fenced area that people can have their dogs off leash, so you're compromising with that. But that's something that's going to go before the task force to decide if that's the direction that we should go, or like Jim said, is it just a fence that's put up to help separate the open space area from the playground? So right now it's kind of like all opportunity exists to develop something new that hopefully will work for most. And so I just want to bring it to the board and see if there's an appetite to do that, to reform the task force, to bring in some new members.
I'm certainly supportive of that. I think that sounds like a great group, and I like the idea of having a mediator there who can facilitate, if you will, and create some ground rules and respect among all the opinions. But I'll defer to Kate and see what, Kate, you think about this.
Yeah, I personally think it's a really great idea. I kind of wish that we would have started there and maybe had everyone talk about it at the beginning. So I'm excited to see where this goes. And I love the idea of a mediator, because I think having a very complete third party helping us will help probably people just see the common ground and make some good decisions. So I'm very supportive of it, and I'm definitely still on board. Like, we're going to finish this one strong, you guys.
Great, thanks, Kate.
Mm-hmm.
Any other members of the commission have any comments on this?
I'm for it. I mean, I'm up for it. It's interesting that Pirate Youth Sports, which was originally on the task force, and EU, Inglewood Unleashed, are coming back. Not that they're new members, they were there in the past. So that's good. And I think having some residents, you know, that's good too.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else?
So I guess my question would be, how does the ultimate decision come out? Because obviously the people that are going to be brought in are going to offer differing opinions and may not end up agreeing with each other. So even if we have a mediator come in, I think there are going to be people that are going to be absolutely dead set for it and absolutely dead set against it. So does it still come down to the people that are on the commission to make the recommendation? Or do the people that the Pirate Youth Sports and the Inglewood Unleashed and everybody else, is everybody still going to have to come to the same agreement?
Yeah, so this, if you all,
last time.
Right, if you all approve to move forward with this new task force, the new task force would be presenting the recommendations to council for final approval. So you know, obviously we bring them to the whole commission so you all can see what the group came up with, and you will give your blessing to that if you agree with it. Hopefully that's the case. We've been doing this a long time, as Kate knows. And then we take it to council, and then once they give their approval for it, then it would move forward as the new whatever the program ends up being. So
I guess I'm more just asking from the task force standpoint. I think there were 4 or 5 of us currently. So if the people that get brought in, I guess the ultimate question, is there going to be a vote at the end that includes all the additional members, or are they giving their guidance to the task force, the commission member task force, and then we pass a recommendation on to the group?
it probably can go both ways. It could go either way.
Okay.
My recommendation would be to take the vote as this new group, and that's what we're going to take to council. So it wouldn't be the old task force taking it back to council. It's going to be this new group that's brought together. I just feel like that has a lot more strength behind it, and you have unity. If we can get to that final recommendation as a whole group, and I agree, we might not have total agreement by everybody on there, but in talking to the individuals that have given their willingness to participate, it sounds like they're willing to work together to come up with something that's final, that hopefully works for most. We won't ever appease everybody, we know that. But in my opinion, I mean, we have conflict in our parks with off-leash and other uses, and we need to reduce those conflicts to keep everybody that uses the park safe. And so that's going to be really the focus moving forward of what the recommendation is going to be. But yeah, it's going to be this new task force that will take the recommendation to council for approval.
Okay.
You know, what we did in 2003 with Canine Corral, or what became Canine Corral, was that task force, which was made up similar to this. It after numerous meetings and different opinions and stuff, it came up with a number of choices, and that the group could have a consensus on with the choices, because ultimately council's going to make the decision anyway. And so you could have a recommendation, but here are the choices, and that seemed to work pretty well. And once with a number of those choices, I mean, Centennial Park was, I think originally Centennial Park was the place that was recommended on the north side of the lake for an off-leash dog park. And it was the public that came forward and said, no, that's not a good idea. It's not safe for women to go there at night by themselves for a dog park. And, you know, those were things that didn't come up in that meeting, or didn't, you know, people weren't thinking of that. So I guess I would just recommend to look at maybe a few different things where you could put it together.
I think we can take that into consideration, Jim. I was going to mention the same thing. You've got a better memory than I do, though. But again, I think the key words are compromise and consensus here, because you're not going to get 100% agreement giving the opposing uses in Jason Park or anywhere. So again, compromise, as well as people are willing to compromise and then come to some kind of an agreement through consensus and take that forward to city council. But I also do like your idea of providing them with some options as well. But I think you have to have a number one agreement to, you know, what the primary direction is with some other options.
Correct. This is our recommendation, and here are options 1 and 2, or 3, whatever. Okay.
Christine, we do have a guest that has a question.
Yes, and I will.
I've just,
Oh, perfect. Oh, we have, oh yeah. So Charles, go ahead.
I think he's muted.
Oh, all right.
I
you-
unmuted him.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard Christina say that the two city members, the members who are joining the task force, just the public people, are opposed to an off-leash dog park. Is that true?
They're more opposed to the off-leash program.
Are there any people on the task force who are pro off-leash dog parks?
Yeah, so Inglewood Unleashed is that side. I was trying to get both sides of the off-leash program. So we have a couple residents that have been fairly vocal in the past that have been willing to participate, and then we have Inglewood Unleashed who is for the off-leash program.
But you don't have any residents that are for the off-leash program, correct?
Inglewood Unleashed is for off-leash and their residents. Paul's one of them that's on the call tonight.
Okay, that was my only question. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Thanks, Charles. Jana, I see that you have a question. I will unmute you.
Hi guys, thank you. I spoke a little while back and I just wanted to thank you guys for listening to everything that was presented. I of course am pro having the dogs off leash for my guys and for many others, but I really what I wanted to do was just clarify something so that I know next steps for myself, and I've been following really closely, so I've kind of become a source for people at the parks to ask questions and things. My takeaway from this is that really everything's sort of on hold in terms of it's closed, it's not closed. There's no real decision until closer to the end of the year when you said the park ranger could be funded. And again, with this new task force joining forces to come up with a compromise. So would it be safe to say that except for the hours that were updated, that Jason Park in particular, but of course the other ones will remain as is in terms of usage? We can go, they can be off leash. There's not going to, I just worry that every day I go is the last day I'm going to be able to go. And I've been kind of preparing myself mentally with some protections because it's just such an important part of my life. So really and truly, I want to be able to kind of breathe a sigh of relief and go, okay, they're really listening to us. It's going to be great for the neighbors, and we're just going to kind of hold off until things settle down and this is created. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, you're correct on that. That's something that our council directed us on because of COVID and all the stress that's come with that. No change to the off-leash program will be made until this task force comes together and puts a final recommendation together. And like I said, I don't anticipate any changes at all until 2021, and it may not be January 1st. It may be June before these changes get implemented because there's a lot that has to be put into place. So the off-leash program stays as is until further notice.
Okay, fantastic. And then just one last follow-up. What would be the best way to sort of keep in the know? Would it be attending these specific meetings and just checking for agenda items that relate to off-leash agenda? I'm just sort of curious. I felt like I had to do kind of a lot of digging to be able to figure out where I needed to be or what I needed to be watching or contributing.
What we can do is put the off-leash topic on this agenda kind of indefinitely until a resolution is on the plate. So that way either myself or one of like Kate, who's one of our board members, can give just a brief update on where the task force is at and potentially what they're discussing. It's hard to say until we get going really where it's going to go, but we can put it as a standing item on the agenda until we're done with it.
Oh, that would be really great. I appreciate all of that. And I won't take up more of your time. I remember the last meeting, we were at 3.5, 4 hours before I finally had to go. So at least the city council meeting. So again, thank each and every one of you for looking out for everybody. It can't be easy. I can only imagine. So thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Christine,
Okay,
can I ask
so
another question?
mhm.
Christina, is this then the continuation of the Parks and Recreation Task Force? Or is this City Council Task Force? Will the task force be coming, well, from what I just heard, I guess it would be coming back to and reporting to Parks and Rec Commission?
Correct. It'll stay with Parks and Rec Commission as a task force, not a city council task force. So it'll be Parks and Rec.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you.
Great. So I think I heard that we need to take a vote on this. So if I could just get a motion to move this new restructuring of the off-leash task force, that would be great.
I'll motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Perfect. Is that all you
Thank
need,
you guys.
Christina?
That's good.
Okay.
Actually, Gary, because you're school liaison, you're not able to do a motion. I apologize.
Ah,
So we'd have to have somebody else do the second.
I'll place a second.
All right. Thank you. Sorry, Gary.
thanks for participating.
Appreciate
Okay, we have staff's choice, and I also see Allison is on here too. So if Allison wants to give an update, you're totally welcome to. But I guess I'll start with Dave.
Yes, I was able to get the IGA between the schools and the city in front of Dr. Wendy Rubin last week, and I sent Ariel Ramos, he's the operations supervisor for the schools. I sent him an email today. They did discuss it last week, and he's been charged with reviewing it and then approving it. So I'm hopeful in the next couple of weeks, month, that we'll have that ratified. And what that was the schools has taken over all functions at Hosanna Athletic Fields, and Inglewood Parks and Recreation is now maintaining the field over there at Colorado's Finest. That's all I have.
Dave, have we done the parking lot work over there?
We have not.
Okay,
We don't have an agreement yet.
that's good. I appreciate that.
Allison, do you have anything for us?
Allison does not.
Okay, great. And Christina, anything else?
I just have one thing. If you can see it in the background, this, Jim, did you get your copy of the Inglewood Citizen? This is our pandemic issue. So it's really just calling out what the city's been doing in response to the pandemic. It has some updates on how we're handling programs and all of that. So I believe it was mailed out at least a week or two ago. If you didn't receive it, just let me know. We can get you a copy of it if you're interested. But they do have extras at the rec center, city hall, all that. So that's that. That's all I've got.
Great, thanks. So we will move to Commissioner's Choice. Gary, do you have anything for us?
I do not this evening.
Okay, great. Jim?
Yes, I have a question for Paul with Inglewood Unleashed. Were you able to work out with the former board from Inglewood Unleashed to get the funds out of the bank and into, or your names onto the account or whatever?
I will check on that with you. We're going to have a meeting next Tuesday night, and I'll check on that. And,
Okay.
and as soon as I can, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
What
and
the situation is with that.
And if not, Barb Chumley, I noticed, was at the city council meeting speaking. So, I mean, Barb's been around here for a long, long, long time. And I'm sure she would be pretty accessible.
Right. Yeah, I did recognize her name when she was speaking in the city council meeting, and I know that she was involved with Englewood Unleashed for quite a long time. So yeah, if nothing else, I guess we can also try and get a hold of her. So
Yeah, I think she was not only involved, she was the president and ran it and set things up. So she was.
okay. Okay, I'll check on. I'll check on this. Check on the status of the bank accounts, and I'll get back with you as soon as I'll get back with you as soon as I can on that.
Thank you.
So okay, thanks, Jim.
That is all I had, Christine.
Great, thanks, Jim. Kate.
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Thanks.
Ben.
I'm good.
Okay, Monica.
I just want to say hi to everybody, and it's good to be here. And we talked a lot about the off-leash parks at our last code enforcement meeting. So it's Rita Russell actually brought it up and was interested in getting our feedback, since Dave Lewis does a lot of that enforcement right now. So I'm hoping to be helpful to you in that way, since I'm on both. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Monica. Debbie, I overlooked you. I'm sorry, on staff's choice. Did you have anything for us?
I do not. Thank you, though.
Sure. I don't have anything. So I guess for the good of the order, unless there's anything else, I will adjourn the meeting. Okay, we're adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, you
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Thanks, Christine.
Great
Bye.
job, Christine.
Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.